I was sitting in my Honda outside the downtown wine bar, engine running, watching the rain streak down my windshield like tears I refused to shed. My wife Sarah was supposed to be 3 hours north on some girls' weekend retreat with her best friend Jessica. Yoga, wine tastings, and whatever else women do when they want to escape their boring husbands. Except Jessica Martinez was walking out of Vintner's table right now, alone, checking her phone with the satisfied smile of someone who'd just finished a very good meal. I killed the engine and stepped into the October drizzle. "Hold up, Jessica." She turned, and that smile faltered for just a second before snapping back into place. "David, what are you doing downtown? Shouldn't you be home binge-watching Netflix like a good abandoned husband?" "Funny thing," I said, walking closer. "You're not traveling with my wife?" Jessica's grin widened, and something predatory flickered behind her perfectly applied mascara. "Nope. She's away with another man." The words hit me like a punch to the solar plexus, but 15 years as a compliance officer at Meridian Logistics had taught me to keep my face neutral when people dropped bombs. I'd built my career on reading between the lines, catching the lies people told themselves they were clever enough to hide. "Is that so?" I kept my voice level, professional. Jessica stepped closer, close enough that I could smell her expensive perfume mixed with wine. "Forget her. Dinner with me tonight?" Now I understood. This wasn't seduction. This was a handoff. In my line of work, I'd seen enough whistleblowers to recognize the signs. The casual disclosure that shattered everything, delivered with just enough plausible deniability to maintain cover. Jessica wasn't hitting on me. She was activating a pipeline. "Where?" I asked. "Somewhere private. We need to talk." An hour later, we sat in a corner booth at Murphy's Wine Bar, the kind of place where conversations disappeared into dark wood and dim lighting. Jessica had ordered a bottle of Pinot Noir that cost more than my monthly gym membership. I stuck with coffee. "How long have you known?" I asked. 6 months. She slid a manila envelope across the table. Maybe longer. Inside were printouts of credit card statements I'd never seen before. A secondary account in Sarah's name, funded by transfers from our joint savings. The merchant category codes told a story I didn't want to read. Luxury hotels, expensive restaurants, lingerie purchases. All for 2 people, all in places Sarah had never mentioned visiting. "She's been careful," Jessica said, refilling her wine glass, "but not careful enough. You know what I do for a living, David? I investigate insurance fraud. Following paper trails is literally my job." I studied the receipts. Coastal resort charges from 3 different states over the past 4 months. Always the same pattern. Friday afternoon check-in, Sunday evening checkout. Always while Sarah claimed to be at medical conferences or visiting her sister in Albany. "Who is he?" Jessica's smile turned sharp. "Dr. Michael Chen, her former therapist." The name hit me like ice water. Sarah had seen Dr. Chen for anxiety treatment 2 years ago, right after her mother died. She'd talked about him constantly, how understanding he was, how he really listened, how he helped her work through her grief. The sessions had lasted 6 months, ending abruptly when Sarah announced she was much better now. Former? He stopped treating her 18 months ago, started sleeping with her 6 months later. Jessica pulled out her phone and showed me a photo. Sarah and a tall Asian man with silver-streaked hair walking hand in hand on a beach. She was wearing a sundress I'd never seen before. Professional ethics violation, boundary breach, career-ending stuff if the right people found out. I set down my coffee cup with deliberate care. "What do you want, Jessica?" "I want justice, and I want that smug bastard to lose everything." "Why? What's he to you?" Her mask slipped for just a moment, and I saw something raw underneath. "He destroyed my marriage too, 3 years ago. I was his patient after my divorce, vulnerable and stupid. He convinced me I needed intensive therapy, twice-a-week sessions that turned into dinner meetings, then hotel rooms. When I figured out what he was doing, I tried to report him. He had lawyers, connections, a spotless reputation. I was just another unstable divorcee making wild accusations. The pieces clicked into place. You've been building a case. For 3 years. Sarah's just the evidence I needed to make it stick. She leaned forward. I already filed a complaint with the state licensing board, but I need corroborating testimony from a spouse, someone with credibility, a clean reputation, someone like you. I thought about Sarah's recent behavior, the late nights at work, the new clothes, the expensive haircuts, the sudden interest in weekend conferences, the way she'd started locking her phone, taking calls in the other room, claiming her law firm was handling sensitive cases that required discretion. There's more, Jessica said, pulling out another folder. Hotel security footage, credit card receipts, even Wi-Fi login records from their little love nest weekends. My private investigator is very thorough. I flipped through the evidence. It was overwhelming, methodical, prosecutorial. You've been planning this for months. Years. I told you, I investigate fraud for a living. This is just personal fraud instead of insurance fraud. She finished her wine. The licensing board hearing is scheduled for next Tuesday. Chen doesn't know what's coming. Neither does Sarah. What happens to her? That's up to you. But Chen's finished. His license gets revoked. He faces civil suits from multiple former patients I've tracked down, and his reputation gets destroyed. Her smile was cold as winter, just like he destroyed mine. I stared at the evidence spread across our table. 15 years of marriage, reduced to credit card receipts and hotel surveillance photos. Sarah laughing with another man, holding his hand, sharing intimate moments while I sat at home, wondering why she seemed so distant lately. The hearing is public record, Jessica continued. Local news loves a good scandal, especially when it involves a respected therapist preying on vulnerable patients. Sarah's name will be all over it. She'll lose her job. Sarah worked as a paralegal at a prestigious downtown firm. They valued discretion above everything else. Probably, but she made her choice. Jessica gathered the papers back into the envelope. The question is, what choice are you going to make? I thought about Sarah's lies, her betrayal, the months of deception while I'd blamed myself for the growing distance between us. I thought about Dr. Chen, using his position of trust to seduce vulnerable women, hiding behind professional credentials while destroying marriages and lives. What do you need me to do? The next morning, I called in sick to work for the first time in 3 years. Sarah was already gone, another early client meeting that probably meant breakfast with her lover. I sat in my home office staring at the evidence Jessica had given me, feeling like I was seeing my life clearly for the first time in months. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Working late tonight, don't wait up. Love you. The casual cruelty of it made my hands shake. I forwarded the message to Jessica. She called immediately. Perfect timing. He's in court today. Messy custody battle with his ex-wife. She's another one of his former patients, by the way. Seems like a pattern. How many women? That I can prove? 4, including Sarah. That I suspect? At least a dozen over the past 5 years. Jessica's voice was businesslike, professional. Meet me at my office at 2. We need to prep your testimony for the board hearing. Jessica's office occupied the top floor of a converted warehouse in the Arts District. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the river, and her desk was a masterpiece of organized chaos. Case files, legal pads, and multiple computer monitors displaying what looked like surveillance footage. Insurance fraud investigation pays well, she said, noticing my expression. Especially when you're good at it. She led me to a conference room where another woman was waiting. Mid-40s, professionally dressed, with the hollow-eyed look of someone who'd been through hell and come out the other side. David, meet Lisa Thompson, Dr. Chen's ex-wife. Lisa stood and shook my hand. Her grip was firm, but I could feel the tremor in her fingers. I'm sorry about your situation. I know how much this hurts. How long were you married? 12 years. I thought we were happy. She sat back down heavily. I started seeing Michael for postpartum depression after our second child. He was so understanding, so supportive. He convinced me I needed intensive therapy to deal with my deep-seated issues. 3 sessions a week, then dinner meetings, then weekend retreats for breakthrough sessions. The parallels to Sarah's situation were chilling. When did you realize what was happening? When I found out about the others. Michael has a type. Successful women going through emotional crises, divorce, death in the family, job loss, postpartum depression. He targets them when they're vulnerable, convinces them they need his special brand of therapy. Jessica pulled up files on her laptop. Lisa's been helping me document his pattern of abuse. We've identified 7 women over the past 8 years, all former patients, all seduced during or immediately after treatment. Why haven't you gone to the police? Lisa laughed bitterly. With what evidence? Adultery isn't illegal, and Michael is very careful about consent. He waits until the therapeutic relationship officially ends before making his move. Technically, he's not violating any laws. But he is violating professional ethics, Jessica added. The licensing board takes that very seriously, especially when there's a pattern of predatory behavior. She showed me the complaint she'd filed. 12 pages of detailed allegations supported by financial records, witness statements, and documentary evidence. It was devastating, methodical, and absolutely damning. The hearing is Tuesday at 10 a.m. You'll testify about Sarah's deception, the financial evidence, and the impact on your marriage. Lisa will testify about the pattern of behavior. I'll present the documentary evidence. What about Sarah? Does she know? Not yet, but she will soon enough. Jessica's smile was predatory. Michael's lawyer will notify all the women involved. Standard procedure. They need to know their names might come up in testimony. I thought about Sarah getting that call, realizing her secret was about to become very public. Part of me felt sorry for her. The larger part felt coldly satisfied. There's something else, Lisa said quietly. The custody battle I mentioned? Michael's trying to get full custody of our kids. Claims I'm an unfit mother because of my history of mental illness. He's using my therapy records against me. The casual cruelty of it was breathtaking. Jesus. When his license gets revoked, the custody case falls apart. Those therapy records become inadmissible, and his credibility gets destroyed. Lisa's voice hardened. He wanted to play dirty. Now we're going to bury him. Jessica handed me a thick folder. Your homework. Study every document, every receipt, every piece of evidence. The board will ask detailed questions, and you need to be prepared. I spent the weekend going through the files. The scope of Sarah's deception was staggering. She'd created an entire parallel life, complete with fake conference registrations, forged travel receipts, and elaborate cover stories. The woman I'd been married to for 15 years was a stranger. Sunday night, she came home from another girls' weekend, full of stories about spa treatments and wine tastings. I sat at the kitchen table watching her lie to my face with practiced ease and felt something cold and final settle in my chest. How was Jessica? I asked casually. Sarah's smile never wavered. Oh, you know Jess. Drama queen as always. She spent half the weekend complaining about her ex-husband. The lie came so smoothly, so naturally, that I almost admired her skill. Almost. Sounds exhausting. It was. I'm going to take a bath and go to bed early. She kissed my forehead, a gesture that once meant everything and now felt like mockery. Love you, honey. I watched her walk upstairs, phone in hand, probably texting Chen about their next rendezvous. In 48 hours, their world would explode. Sarah would lose her job, her reputation, her comfortable life of lies and deception. Chen would lose his license, his practice, his children. I should have felt guilty about the destruction I was about to unleash. Instead, I felt nothing but cold anticipation. Tuesday morning arrived gray and drizzly, perfect weather for ruining lives. I put on my best suit, the one Sarah had bought me for our 10th anniversary, and drove downtown to the State Professional Licensing Board building. Jessica was waiting in the lobby, dressed in a sharp black suit that made her look like an avenging angel. Ready for this? As ready as I'll ever be. The hearing room was smaller than I'd expected, more like a conference room than a courtroom. 5 board members sat at a long table reviewing files. Dr. Chen sat with his lawyer at one side of the room, looking confident and composed. He was exactly as Sarah had described, tall, distinguished, with silver-streaked hair and kind eyes that probably made vulnerable women feel safe and understood. When he saw me, his composure cracked slightly. He whispered something to his lawyer, who looked up sharply and studied my face. "They know who you are," Jessica murmured. "Good. Let them sweat." Lisa arrived a few minutes later with her own attorney. Chen's face went pale when he saw her. Whatever confidence he'd maintained evaporated instantly. The board chairwoman called the hearing to order. "We're here to consider complaint number 2023-447, filed by Jessica Martinez against Dr. Michael Chen, alleging violations of professional ethics standards in his treatment of multiple patients." Jessica stood and delivered her opening statement with the precision of a prosecutor. She outlined Chen's pattern of behavior, the systematic seduction of vulnerable patients, the abuse of professional trust. Her voice was calm, clinical, devastating. Chen's lawyer tried to object, claiming the allegations were based on hearsay and speculation. The chairwoman shut him down quickly. "Ms. Martinez, please call your first witness." "I call David Patterson." I walked to the witness chair on unsteady legs. The board members looked at me with professional sympathy, probably assuming I was just another victim of a cheating spouse. Jessica led me through my testimony methodically. Sarah's lies about her whereabouts, the secret bank account, the unexplained expenses. I presented copies of credit card statements, hotel receipts, travel records. The evidence was overwhelming. "Mr. Patterson, when did your wife's relationship with Dr. Chen begin?" "Approximately 6 months after her therapy sessions ended. She started taking weekend trips, claiming they were for work or to visit family. The financial records show she was actually meeting Dr. Chen at various hotels." Chen's lawyer objected. "This is speculation. Mr. Patterson has no direct knowledge of his wife's activities." I reached into my briefcase and pulled out the folder Jessica had given me. "Actually, I do have direct knowledge." The room went silent. Even Jessica looked surprised. "Last week, I hired a private investigator to follow my wife. These are photographs from their most recent weekend together." I handed the photos to the board chairwoman. Sarah and Chen walking hand in hand on a beach, kissing in a restaurant, entering a hotel room together. The timestamps showed they were taken just 5 days ago. Chen's face went ashen. His lawyer looked like he wanted to crawl under the table. "Your Honor," the lawyer stammered, "my client's personal relationships are not relevant to his professional conduct." "On the contrary," the chairwoman replied coldly. "Dr. Chen's pattern of relationships with former patients is extremely relevant to this complaint." Jessica called Lisa to the stand next. Her testimony was devastating, a detailed account of Chen's grooming tactics, his manipulation of the therapeutic relationship, his systematic destruction of her marriage and mental health. "He convinced me that my feelings for him were part of my healing process," Lisa said, her voice steady, despite the tears streaming down her face. "He said our relationship was therapeutic, that I needed to learn to trust men again after my divorce. I believed him because he was my doctor. I trusted him." Chen's lawyer tried to cross-examine her, suggesting she was a bitter ex-wife making false accusations. It backfired spectacularly. Lisa's attorney presented phone records, text messages, and financial documents that corroborated every detail of her story. The final witness was Dr. Patricia Williams, a forensic psychiatrist who specialized in professional misconduct cases. She testified about the power dynamics in therapeutic relationships, the vulnerability of patients, and the long-term psychological damage caused by therapists' sexual misconduct. Dr. Chen's behavior represents a fundamental violation of professional ethics, she concluded. His pattern of targeting vulnerable women, grooming them during therapy, and then initiating sexual relationships demonstrates a clear abuse of his position of trust. Chen's lawyer presented a weak defense, claiming the relationships were consensual and occurred after treatment ended. He produced character witnesses, colleagues who testified to Chen's professional reputation and community standing. It was too little, too late. The evidence was overwhelming, the pattern undeniable. The board deliberated for less than an hour. When they returned, the chairwoman's expression was grim. "Dr. Chen, this board finds you guilty of multiple violations of professional ethics standards, including sexual misconduct with former patients, abuse of the therapeutic relationship, and conduct detrimental to the profession." Chen's face crumpled. His lawyer put a steadying hand on his shoulder. "Your license to practice psychology in this state is hereby revoked, effective immediately. You are prohibited from treating patients, supervising students, or representing yourself as a licensed psychologist. This decision will be reported to the National Practitioner Databank and all relevant professional organizations." The gavel came down with finality. Chen buried his face in his hands. His career was over, his reputation destroyed, his life in ruins. I should have felt sorry for him. Instead, I felt nothing but cold satisfaction. Sarah was waiting in our driveway when I got home, her face pale and streaked with tears. She'd obviously gotten the call from Chen's lawyer about the hearing. "David, we need to talk." I walked past her into the house. She followed, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor like a countdown timer. "I know you're angry," she began. "Angry?" I turned to face her. "Sarah, I'm not angry. Angry is what you feel when someone cuts you off in traffic or leaves dirty dishes in the sink. What I feel is something much colder." She flinched at my tone. "It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. You've been having an affair with your former therapist for 6 months. You've been lying to me, stealing from our joint accounts, and living a double life while I sat here like an idiot wondering why you seemed so distant. I didn't mean for it to happen. I was confused, vulnerable. Michael helped me through a difficult time." "Stop." I held up my hand. "Don't you dare try to justify this. You made a choice, Sarah. Every lie, every secret weekend, every time you looked me in the eye and told me you loved me while you were planning your next rendezvous with him. You chose this." She started crying harder. "I love you, David. I never stopped loving you. Michael was he understood me in a way you couldn't." The casual cruelty of it took my breath away. "Understood you how?" "By convincing you to betray your marriage vows. By manipulating you into financing your affair with our savings. By turning you into someone I don't even recognize? You don't understand the pressure I've been under, work, my mother's death, everything. I needed someone to talk to, someone who could help me process my feelings. You had someone to talk to. Me, your husband. Remember me? The guy who held you while you cried about your mother, who supported you through your grief, who loved you unconditionally for 15 years? She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, smearing her makeup. "This is Jessica's fault. She poisoned you against me, filled your head with lies." Jessica didn't fill my head with anything. She just showed me the truth. The credit card receipts, the hotel bills, the photographs, all evidence of choices you made. Sarah's expression hardened. "So what happens now? You divorce me, take half of everything, and pretend this never happened?" "Actually, I've been thinking about that." I walked to my desk and pulled out a folder. I had my lawyer draw up some papers. Her face went white. "David, please. We can work through this. Marriage counseling, therapy, whatever it takes." "With which therapist?" Your boyfriend just lost his license. Permanently. The words hit her like a physical blow. She sank into a chair, her face crumpling. His license? What are you talking about? The state licensing board revoked it this morning. Turns out you weren't his first victim, or his second, or his third. I sat down across from her. Michael Chen has been seducing vulnerable patients for years. You were just the latest in a long line of women he manipulated and destroyed. That's not true. What we had was special, real. What you had was a predator exploiting your grief and vulnerability for his own gratification. He's done it before, Sarah. Multiple times. With other patients. Other marriages. I could see the realization dawning in her eyes, the slow understanding that she'd been played, used, discarded. Chen had probably already moved on to his next victim, leaving Sarah to face the consequences alone. The hearing was public record, I continued. Local news picked up the story an hour ago. Your name, your affair, your theft from our joint accounts. It's all going to be in tomorrow's paper. Oh, God. She buried her face in her hands. My job. My reputation. Should have thought of that before you decided to finance your affair with our daughter's college fund. Her head snapped up. What? I pulled out another set of documents. The $20,000 you transferred to your secret account? That was Emma's tuition money. Our daughter's education, stolen to pay for hotel rooms and romantic dinners with your therapist. The color drained from her face completely. I was going to pay it back. With what money? Your boyfriend's unemployed now, remember? No license, no practice, no income, and when his other victims sue him for malpractice, which they will, he'll be bankrupt within a year. Sarah started crying again, great heaving sobs that might have moved me 6 months ago. Now they just sounded like the soundtrack to justice being served. I'm sorry, David. I'm so sorry. I'll do anything to make this right. There is no making this right, Sarah. You burned our marriage to the ground for a man who saw you as nothing more than another conquest. You stole from our daughter's future to finance your fantasy. You lied to my face for months while I blamed myself for the distance between us. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the life we'd built together. The garden Sarah had planted when we first bought the house. The swing set from when Emma was little. 15 years of memories, all poisoned now by her betrayal. I want you out of the house by Friday. David, please. Friday, Sarah. Take whatever you need, but leave everything else. The house, the cars, the bank accounts, they're all going to be frozen pending the divorce settlement. Where am I supposed to go? I turned back to face her. I honestly don't care. Call your sister, get a hotel room, move in with one of your friends, figure it out. What about Emma? She's coming home from college next weekend. Emma will stay here with me. I'll explain what happened, show her the evidence. She's an adult. She can make her own decisions about whether she wants a relationship with someone who stole her tuition money. Sarah's face crumpled again. The reality of losing everything, her husband, her home, her daughter's respect, was finally sinking in. This is cruel, David. Vindictive. No, Sarah. Cruel is what you did to our marriage. Vindictive is what Michael Chen did to all those vulnerable women. This is just consequences. I walked toward the door, then stopped and looked back at her one last time. For what it's worth, I did love you. For 15 years I loved you completely, faithfully, unconditionally. You threw that away for a man who was using you, manipulating you, destroying you from the inside out. I shook my head. I hope it was worth it. I left her sitting in our living room, surrounded by the wreckage of the life she'd chosen to destroy. By Friday, she'd be gone, and I could begin the long process of rebuilding what she'd torn down. But first, there was one more conversation I needed to have. Emma came home from college that weekend, her usual bright energy dimmed by the phone call I'd had to make. She sat at our kitchen table, staring at the evidence I'd laid out, her face cycling through disbelief, anger, and heartbreak. Mom really did all this? I'm sorry, sweetheart. I know this is hard to process. She stole my tuition money? Emma's voice cracked. For her affair? $20,000. I've already talked to the financial aid office at your school. We'll figure out how to cover the shortfall, but it might mean student loans for your senior year. Emma pushed the photos away like they were contaminated. I can't believe she looked me in the eye and lied. All those times she called, asking about school, pretending to care about my grades and my friends while she was doing this. Your mother loves you, Emma. This isn't about you. Isn't it, though? She chose him over our family, over you, over me, over everything we built together. Emma wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. Where is she now? Staying with her sister in Portland. She wanted to see you, but I thought you should have time to process everything first. I don't want to see her. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Emma's voice hardened in a way that reminded me of myself. She made her choice. Now she has to live with it. We spent the weekend talking, crying, and slowly beginning to heal. Emma helped me pack up Sarah's remaining belongings, clothes, books, personal items that had somehow avoided the purge I'd done after she moved out. It was therapeutic, in a way, physically removing the last traces of her betrayal from our home. On Sunday afternoon, as Emma was getting ready to drive back to school, she asked the question I'd been dreading. Dad, are you okay? Really okay? I thought about it honestly. I'm angry, hurt, and disappointed, but I'm also relieved. For months, I thought I was losing my mind. I blamed myself for the distance between us, wondered what I'd done wrong, how I'd failed as a husband. Finding out the truth was devastating, but it was also liberating. What happens now? Now we move forward. You finish college, I finalize the divorce, and we build a new normal. It won't be the same, but it might be better. Emma hugged me tightly. I love you, Dad, and I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself. After she left, I sat in the quiet house, feeling truly alone for the first time in 15 years. It was terrifying and peaceful at the same time. My phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. Saw the news coverage. How are you holding up? I called her back. Better than expected. How's Lisa doing? Good. The custody hearing got postponed indefinitely. Chen's lawyer is scrambling to do damage control, but it's too late. His credibility is shot. Any word on the civil suits? 3 filed already with more coming. He'll be bankrupt within 6 months. Jessica's voice was satisfied. Justice served. What about you? Are you okay with how everything played out? There was a long pause. I've been waiting 3 years for this, David. Watching him destroy other women while living his perfect life, untouchable behind his professional reputation. Seeing him lose everything. It doesn't undo what he did to me, but it feels like closure. Thank you. For everything. I know this wasn't easy for you either. We helped each other. That's what people do when they're fighting the same monsters. After we hung up, I poured myself a drink and sat on my back porch, watching the sunset. Tomorrow I'd go back to work, face the inevitable questions and gossip, and continue rebuilding my life. Sarah would have to do the same, somewhere else, with someone else's sympathy. Chen was already facing the consequences of his actions. His practice was closed, his reputation destroyed, his marriage over. The other women he'd victimized were finally getting their day in court, their voices heard, their pain acknowledged. It wasn't a happy ending. Too much damage had been done for that. But it was a just ending, and sometimes that's enough. 6 months later, I was cleaning out my desk at work when Tom Bradley from HR knocked on my office door. Tom and I had been friends for 8 years, grabbing beers after work, talking about sports and life and the general absurdity of corporate existence. Hey, David, got a minute? Sure, what's up? Tom closed the door behind him and sat down heavily. His usual easy smile was nowhere to be found. I heard Sarah's been calling around, trying to get information about you, asking about your work performance, your mental state. whether you've been acting erratically. I set down the box I was packing. What kind of information? The kind that sounds like she's building a case for something. Maybe trying to challenge the divorce settlement? Tom shifted uncomfortably. Look, I probably shouldn't be telling you this, but she called my wife last week, asked if we'd noticed any changes in your behavior, whether you seemed unstable or vindictive. The casual manipulation of it was breathtaking, even for Sarah. What did Jennifer tell her? The truth, that you've seemed happier and more relaxed than you have in years. But David... Tom leaned forward. Sarah's not done. She's angry about how everything went down, and she's looking for ways to hurt you. I thought about the divorce proceedings, which had been brutal, but fair. Sarah had tried to claim emotional distress, arguing that my vindictive exposure of her affair had caused her to lose her job and reputation. Her lawyer had painted me as a controlling husband who'd orchestrated a campaign of public humiliation against his vulnerable wife. It hadn't worked. The financial evidence was too clear, the pattern of deception too extensive. Sarah had walked away with minimal assets and no alimony, a consequence of her theft from our joint accounts and her adultery. Thanks for the heads up, Tom. I'll keep an eye out. There's something else. Tom looked even more uncomfortable. Mike Stevens in accounting? He's been asking questions about your expense reports, your travel records, anything that might suggest financial impropriety. Mike Stevens. Another friend, or so I'd thought. We'd played golf together, attended each other's kids' birthday parties, shared countless conversations about work and life. Let me guess. Sarah got to him too? His wife is friends with Sarah's sister. They've been feeding him stories about how you destroyed an innocent woman's life and manipulated the legal system to get revenge. Tom shook his head. Mike thinks you're some kind of sociopath who orchestrated the whole thing. The betrayal stung more than I'd expected. These were people I'd considered friends, colleagues I'd trusted and respected. Sarah's poison was spreading through my professional and social circles like a virus. Anyone else I should know about? Rachel from marketing, Jim Morrison from sales, probably others. Sarah's been busy. Tom stood up. I'm sorry, David. I know this isn't what you need right now. After Tom left, I sat in my office thinking about the friends I was losing, the relationships Sarah was systematically destroying with her lies and manipulation. Part of me wanted to fight back, to defend myself, to set the record straight. But I was tired of fighting. Tired of explaining, justifying, proving my innocence to people who'd already made up their minds. If they wanted to believe Sarah's version of events, that was their choice. I finished packing my desk and drove home to the quiet house that had become my sanctuary. Emma was coming home for spring break next week, and I was looking forward to having her energy and laughter fill the empty rooms again. My phone rang as I was making dinner. Unknown number. David Patterson? Yes? This is Detective Maria Santos with the city police. I'd like to ask you some questions about a complaint we received. My blood went cold. What kind of complaint? Harassment and stalking. We've received reports that you've been following your ex-wife, taking photographs and making threatening phone calls. Sarah's final gambit. When financial manipulation and social pressure failed, she'd moved to criminal accusations. Detective, I haven't had any contact with my ex-wife since our divorce was finalized 3 months ago. I haven't called her, followed her, or threatened her in any way. Can you prove that? I thought about my phone records, my work schedule, the security cameras at my office and gym. Yes, I can prove it. When would you like to meet? Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. at the station. Bring any documentation that supports your whereabouts for the past month. After she hung up, I called my lawyer. David Kim had handled my divorce with professional competence and personal compassion. He listened to my explanation without judgment. This is harassment, David. Sarah's trying to use the legal system to continue punishing you for exposing her affair. Can she do that? She can file false reports, but she can't make them stick if you have solid alibis. Gather your phone records, credit card statements, work schedules, anything that proves your whereabouts. I'll meet you at the station tomorrow. I spent the evening collecting evidence of my innocence, a surreal reversal of the months I'd spent gathering evidence of Sarah's guilt. The irony wasn't lost on me. The next morning, Detective Santos turned out to be a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s who looked like she'd heard every lie and excuse in the book. She reviewed my documentation with professional thoroughness. Your phone records show no calls to your ex-wife's number. Your work schedule accounts for most of your time. Your gym membership shows regular check-ins. She looked up from the files. Mr. Patterson, do you have any idea why your ex-wife would make these accusations? She's angry about our divorce. She lost her job, her reputation, and most of our assets because of her affair. I think she blames me for the consequences of her own choices. The affair that was exposed at the licensing board hearing? You know about that? Detective Santos smiled grimly. I worked that case too. Dr. Chen's victims filed a class action lawsuit. Your ex-wife is named as a co-conspirator in his malpractice. She closed the file. Mr. Patterson, based on this evidence, I'm closing this complaint as unfounded. If your ex-wife continues to file false reports, she'll face charges for filing a false police report. Walking out of the police station, I felt a mixture of relief and exhaustion. Sarah's campaign of revenge had failed, but the damage to my relationships and reputation would take time to heal. My lawyer walked with me to the parking garage. David, you need to consider a restraining order. This harassment is only going to escalate. I just want it to be over, David. I want to move on with my life. Sometimes moving on requires taking a stand. Sarah's not going to stop until she faces real consequences for her behavior. That afternoon, I filed for a restraining order. The hearing was scheduled for the following week, and I knew Sarah would fight it. But I was done being her victim, done allowing her to poison my life with her lies and manipulation. The restraining order hearing was held in a small courtroom that smelled of old wood and broken promises. Sarah sat with her lawyer, looking pale and fragile in a conservative blue dress that probably cost more than she could afford. She'd lost weight since the divorce, and her once perfect appearance now looked brittle, desperate. When she saw me, her expression hardened into something cold and calculating. This wasn't the woman I'd married, or even the woman who'd betrayed me. This was someone I didn't recognize at all. Judge Patricia Williams, no relation to the forensic psychiatrist who'd testified against Chen, reviewed the case file with professional detachment. She was known for her no-nonsense approach to domestic disputes and her intolerance for legal gamesmanship. Mr. Patterson, you're requesting a restraining order against your ex-wife based on allegations of harassment, false police reports, and witness intimidation. Please present your evidence. My lawyer laid out the case methodically. Phone records showing Sarah's calls to my colleagues and friends. Transcripts of the false police reports. Sworn statements from Tom Bradley and others describing Sarah's attempts to gather damaging information about me. Your Honor, Sarah's lawyer interjected, my client is simply trying to protect herself from a man who orchestrated a vindictive campaign of public humiliation. Mr. Patterson used his ex-wife's mental health struggles against her, exploiting her vulnerability for his own revenge. It was a clever strategy, painting Sarah as the victim and me as the aggressor. But Judge Williams had clearly done her homework. Counselor, I've reviewed the licensing board transcripts and the divorce proceedings. Your client engaged in a systematic pattern of deception and theft. Mr. Patterson's actions were those of a wronged spouse seeking legal remedies, not a vindictive ex-husband seeking revenge. Sarah's lawyer tried again. Your Honor, my client was manipulated by Dr. Chen, a predator who exploited her grief and vulnerability. She was as much a victim as anyone. That may be true, Judge Williams replied, but it doesn't excuse her subsequent harassment of Mr. Patterson or her attempts to file false police reports. The judge called Sarah to the witness stand. Under oath, she tried to maintain her victim narrative, claiming I'd destroyed her life and turned everyone against her through my vindictive exposure of her affair. Mrs. Patterson, Judge Williams interrupted. Did you or did you not transfer $20,000 from your joint account with your husband to fund your extramarital activities? Sarah's composure cracked slightly. I was going to pay it back. Did you or did you not lie to your husband about your whereabouts on multiple occasions? I was confused, vulnerable. Please answer the question. Did you lie to your husband? Yes, but did you or did not file a false police report claiming your ex-husband was stalking you? Sarah's lawyer objected, but Judge Williams overruled him. I believed he was having me followed. Based on what evidence? I felt like I was being watched. Feelings are not evidence, Mrs. Patterson. Did you have any actual proof that your ex-husband was stalking you? No, but no further questions. When it was my turn to testify, I kept my answers short and factual. Yes, I'd exposed Sarah's affair, but only through legal channels and documented evidence. Yes, I'd sought a divorce, but through proper legal procedures. No, I'd never threatened, followed, or harassed her in any way. Mr. Patterson, Judge Williams asked, what do you hope to accomplish with this restraining order? I want to move on with my life, Your Honor. I want to rebuild my relationships, focus on my daughter, and put this entire situation behind me. But I can't do that while my ex-wife continues to spread lies about me and manipulate our mutual friends and colleagues. Judge Williams deliberated for less than 10 minutes. When she returned, her expression was stern. Mrs. Patterson, your behavior since your divorce has been inappropriate, vindictive, and potentially criminal. You've filed false police reports, attempted to interfere with your ex-husband's employment, and engaged in a systematic campaign of harassment disguised as self-protection. Sarah's face went white. I'm granting the restraining order. You are prohibited from contacting Mr. Patterson directly or indirectly, from approaching his home or workplace, and from contacting his friends, family, or colleagues about him. Violation of this order will result in immediate arrest and prosecution. The judge's gavel came down with finality. Sarah burst into tears, her carefully constructed victim narrative finally collapsing under the weight of her own actions. As we left the courtroom, Sarah's lawyer cornered mine in the hallway. This isn't over. We're appealing. Good luck with that, my lawyer replied. Your client just committed perjury on the witness stand. If I were you, I'd advise her to comply with the restraining order and move on with her life. Outside the courthouse, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Peace. The legal battles were over, Sarah's harassment would stop, and I could finally begin rebuilding my life without looking over my shoulder. But as I walked to my car, I saw Tom Bradley and Mike Stevens standing by the courthouse steps, deep in conversation. When they saw me, Mike's expression hardened into something ugly and accusatory. Proud of yourself, David? Mike called out, destroying a woman who was already down. I stopped walking. For months I'd ignored the whispers, endured the sideways glances, accepted the loss of friendships as collateral damage from Sarah's lies. But something about Mike's tone, his casual cruelty, snapped something inside me. What did you say? You heard me. Sarah's right about you. You're a vindictive bastard who couldn't handle being cheated on, so you destroyed her life. Tom grabbed Mike's arm. Come on, man, this isn't the place. But Mike shook him off. No, I'm tired of pretending this is okay. David's a sociopath. He manipulated the system, turned everyone against Sarah, and now he's using the courts to silence her. I walked closer, my voice deadly calm. Mike, you have no idea what you're talking about. Don't I? Sarah told us everything. How you hired private investigators to stalk her. How you orchestrated that licensing board hearing to humiliate her. How you turned her own friends against her. Sarah lied to you, just like she lied to everyone else. Bullshit. I've known Sarah for years. She's not capable of the kind of manipulation you're describing. I pulled out my phone and opened the photo gallery. Really? Take a look. I showed him the pictures Jessica had taken. Sarah and Chen on the beach, holding hands, kissing. The timestamps showed they were taken while Sarah was supposedly at a work conference. Mike's expression faltered slightly, but he pressed on. So she had an affair. That doesn't justify what you did to her. What I did? Mike, she stole $20,000 from our daughter's college fund to finance her affair. She lied to me for 6 months, made me think I was losing my mind, destroyed our marriage for a man who was using her. My voice rose despite my efforts to stay calm. I exposed the truth through legal channels. That's not revenge. That's justice. You could have handled it privately, gotten counseling, worked things out. With a woman who was stealing from our family to pay for hotel rooms with her therapist? A woman who looked me in the eye every day and lied about where she was, who she was with, what she was doing? Tom stepped between us. Guys, this is getting out of hand. But I was done backing down, done accepting blame for Sarah's choices and their consequences. You want to know what's really sick, Mike? You're more angry at me for exposing Sarah's lies than you are at her for telling them. She destroyed our family, stole from our daughter, and manipulated everyone around her. But somehow, I'm the villain because I refused to quietly accept her betrayal. You didn't have to destroy her publicly. I didn't destroy her, Mike. She destroyed herself. I just refused to help her cover it up. I stepped closer. And you know what the really pathetic part is? She's still lying to you, still manipulating you, still playing the victim while she tries to destroy what's left of my life, and you're helping her do it. Mike's face flushed red. You're sick, David. Sarah was right about you. Sarah's a liar and a thief, and if you can't see that, you're either an idiot or you're complicit. I turned away, then looked back. Either way, we're done. Don't call me, don't text me, don't acknowledge my existence. You've made your choice. I walked to my car, leaving Mike standing on the courthouse steps with his mouth hanging open. Tom followed me. David, wait. What, Tom? You want to defend her too? Tell me how I should have handled my wife's affair with more sensitivity? No, man. I think you're right. I think Mike's been played, just like the rest of us. Tom looked back at Mike, who was walking away in the opposite direction. Sarah's been working on him for months, feeding him stories, playing up her victim status. She's good at it. Yeah, she is. I lived with it for 15 years. I opened my car door. Thanks for having my back, Tom. It means more than you know. What happens now? I thought about Emma, coming home from college in a few weeks, about the quiet house that was slowly becoming a home again, about the friends I'd lost and the ones who'd stuck by me, about the long process of rebuilding a life that Sarah had tried so hard to destroy. Now I move on. Really move on this time. 3 weeks later, I was having dinner with Emma at our favorite restaurant when I saw Sarah across the room. She was with a man I didn't recognize, someone younger, better dressed, with the kind of easy confidence that came from money and privilege. Her new target, probably. Some wealthy divorcee she'd met through her sister's social circle. Emma followed my gaze and tensed. Is that Mom? Yeah. Should we leave? I considered it. The restraining order meant Sarah couldn't approach me, but there was nothing stopping her from making a scene, causing a public confrontation that would embarrass Emma and give Sarah more ammunition for her victim narrative. But I was tired of running, tired of letting Sarah's presence dictate my choices. No, we were here first. We're going to finish our dinner. Sarah noticed us a few minutes later. I saw her whisper something to her companion, who looked over at our table with obvious curiosity. Sarah's expression was unreadable, a mixture of anger, sadness, and something that might have been regret. She excused herself from her table and walked toward the restroom, passing close to our booth. As she went by, she dropped a folded piece of paper next to my plate. Emma saw it too. Dad, don't. But curiosity got the better of me. I unfolded the note. David, I know I can't contact you directly, but I need you to know that I'm sorry. Not for leaving, not for finding someone who understood me, but for how I handled it. You didn't deserve the lies. Emma didn't deserve to have her college fund stolen. I was selfish and cruel, and I'm sorry. I hope someday you can forgive me. S. I stared at the note, feeling a complex mixture of emotions. Anger at her continued manipulation. This was clearly a violation of the restraining order, delivered in a way that made me complicit if I didn't report it. Sadness for the woman I'd once loved, who seemed incapable of taking full responsibility even in her apology. And something that might have been pity for someone so fundamentally broken that she couldn't stop playing games even when she was trying to make amends. Emma reached for the note, but I crumpled it up and dropped it in my water glass. What did it say? Nothing that matters. I pulled out my phone and took a photo of the soggy paper ball, then texted it to Patricia Hayes with a brief explanation. Just more evidence for the file. Emma watched Sarah return to her table, her jaw tight. She still doesn't get it, does she? Even her apology is about her. Not for leaving, not for finding someone who understood me. Like she's the victim in all this. No, she doesn't get it. And she probably never will. I signaled our server for the check. But that's not our problem anymore. Are you going to report the restraining order violation? I thought about it. Part of me wanted Sarah to face consequences for yet another boundary she'd crossed. But another part was just exhausted by the endless cycle of her provocations and my reactions. Patricia already has the evidence. We'll let her decide how to proceed. I paid the bill and stood. Come on, let's get out of here before your mother decides to make another grand gesture. As we walked toward the exit, I felt Sarah's eyes on my back. I didn't turn around, didn't acknowledge her presence. Whatever closure she was seeking, whatever forgiveness she wanted, she wasn't going to get it from me tonight, or possibly ever. Outside, the evening air was crisp and clear. Emma linked her arm through mine as we walked to the car. Dad, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you think you'll ever forgive her? I mean, really forgive her? Not just move on? I unlocked the car and we got in, sitting in silence for a moment while I considered her question. I don't know, Em. Forgiveness is complicated. Part of me wants to say yes, because holding on to anger is exhausting. But another part thinks that what your mother did, the lies, the theft, the betrayal, those aren't things you forgive. They're things you survive and learn from. What's the difference? Forgiving implies that what happened was somehow okay, that we can go back to some version of normal. But we can't. Your mother made choices that fundamentally changed who we are and how we see the world. I can accept that it happened. I can stop being angry about it. But I don't think I can ever say it was okay. Emma nodded slowly. That makes sense. I feel the same way. Like, I don't hate her anymore, but I also don't trust her. And I don't know if I ever will again. And that's okay. You don't owe her forgiveness, Em. You don't owe her anything except honest boundaries about what kind of relationship you're willing to have going forward. What if I don't want any relationship at all? I started the engine and pulled out of the parking lot. Then that's your choice to make. I'll support whatever you decide. We drove in comfortable silence for a while, the city lights blurring past. When we reached Emma's apartment, she didn't immediately get out. Dad, thank you for tonight. Not just dinner, but for everything. For handling all of this with dignity. For protecting me and the college fund. For not turning into a bitter, angry person even though you had every right to. You're my daughter, Em. Protecting you isn't optional. She kissed my cheek and got out, then leaned back through the open door. By the way, I like Rebecca. She seems good for you. Different from Mom in all the right ways. I smiled. Thanks, kiddo. I like her too. Driving home alone, I thought about Sarah's note, about her carefully worded half-apology that still managed to center herself as the protagonist of our story. Someone who understood me. As if understanding justified betrayal, as if emotional connection excused theft and lies. My phone buzzed with a text from Patricia. "Got your message. This is the third restraining order violation. I'm filing a motion tomorrow for contempt charges. Judge Matthews doesn't take kindly to repeated violations." I texted back, "Do what you think is best. I'm done reacting to her provocations." "That's probably wise. How was dinner otherwise?" "Good. Emma's doing well. We're both doing well, actually." "Glad to hear it. You've earned some peace, David." At home, I poured myself a scotch and sat on the back deck, looking up at the stars. The night was quiet except for crickets and the distant sound of traffic. Peaceful in a way my life hadn't been for almost 2 years. Sarah's note sat in my memory like an undigested meal. "I hope someday you can forgive me." Maybe someday I would. But that day wasn't tonight, and it wasn't anytime soon. Because forgiveness required something Sarah had never been capable of giving: genuine accountability, real remorse, honest acknowledgement of harm without caveats or qualifications. Until then, I had my daughter, my work, Rebecca, and the quiet satisfaction of having survived someone else's betrayal with my integrity intact. That was enough. More than enough, actually. I finished my scotch, went inside, and locked the door behind me, literally and metaphorically closing the chapter on whatever Sarah thought she could salvage from the wreckage she'd created. Tomorrow, Patricia would file her motion. Sarah would face consequences for yet another boundary violation. And I would continue building a life that had nothing to do with her, a life defined by honesty and respect and the hard-won wisdom that comes from surviving betrayal. The stars continued their ancient patterns overhead, indifferent to human drama, constant and reliable in ways people rarely were, and somehow that was comforting. Nothing important. Dad. I looked at my daughter, this strong, intelligent young woman who'd inherited the best parts of both her parents and somehow avoided the worst. She deserved honesty, even when the truth was complicated. She apologized, sort of, in her own manipulative way. "Do you forgive her?" It was a question I'd been asking myself for months. Sarah had destroyed our marriage, stolen from our family, and spent months trying to destroy my reputation and relationships. She'd shown no genuine remorse, no real understanding of the damage she'd caused, no willingness to accept full responsibility for her choices. But she'd also been manipulated herself, targeted by a predator who'd exploited her grief and vulnerability. She'd lost her job, her reputation, her home, her marriage, and her relationship with her daughter. In many ways, she'd paid a heavy price for her choices. "I don't know," I said honestly. "Maybe someday. But not today." Emma nodded. "I don't forgive her either. Maybe that makes me a bad person, but I can't get past what she did to you. To us." "It doesn't make you a bad person, sweetheart. It makes you human." We finished our dinner in comfortable silence. Sarah and her companion left while we were waiting for dessert, and I felt the tension drain out of my shoulders. Another confrontation avoided, another test passed. But as we were walking to the car, Mike Stevens appeared in the parking lot. He looked like he'd been drinking, his face flushed and his movements slightly unsteady. "David! Hey, David!" Emma grabbed my arm. "Dad, let's just go." But Mike was already walking toward us, his voice carrying across the parking lot. "I want to talk to you." I handed Emma my keys. "Get in the car and lock the doors. If this gets ugly, call 911. "Dad, just do it, Emma." She reluctantly got in the car while I turned to face Mike. He stumbled slightly as he approached, and I could smell the alcohol on his breath. "Mike, you're drunk. Go home." "I'm not drunk. I'm angry." He pointed an unsteady finger at me. "You ruined her, David. Sarah's a broken woman because of you." Sarah's a broken woman because of her own choices. I had nothing to do with that. Bullshit. You could have handled it quietly, privately. Instead, you destroyed her publicly, humiliated her in front of the whole town. I felt the familiar surge of anger, but I kept my voice level. Mike, Sarah destroyed herself. I just refused to help her cover it up. She loved you, David. For 15 years, she loved you. And one mistake. One mistake? The words came out harsher than I intended. Mike, she had a 6-month affair with her therapist. She stole $20,000 from our daughter's college fund. She lied to me every single day for half a year, made me think I was losing my mind, destroyed our marriage for a man who was using her. That's not one mistake. That's a systematic pattern of betrayal and theft. She was vulnerable, confused. She was an adult who made adult choices and faced adult consequences. I stepped closer, my patience finally exhausted. And you know what the really sick part is, Mike? You're more concerned about protecting Sarah's feelings than you are about what she did to me and Emma. She's still manipulating you, still playing the victim, and you're still buying it. Mike's face flushed darker. You're a cold bastard, David. No wonder she cheated on you. The words hit like a physical blow, but I didn't react. I'd heard worse from Sarah herself, and I'd learned that responding to cruelty with more cruelty only made things worse. Go home, Mike. Sleep it off, and stay away from me and my family. Or what? You'll destroy me too? Turn everyone against me like you did Sarah? I don't need to destroy you, Mike. You're doing a fine job of that yourself. I turned toward my car. Get some help. You're better than this. I'm better than this? You're the one who... He grabbed my shoulder, spinning me around. It was a mistake. 15 years of marriage to Sarah had taught me to recognize aggression, and months of boxing at the gym had taught me how to respond to it. I caught his wrist and twisted, applying just enough pressure to make him let go without causing real damage. Don't touch me, Mike. He stumbled backward, his face a mixture of pain and surprise. You assaulted me. I defended myself. There's a difference. I looked around the parking lot, noting the security cameras, the witnesses, the well-lit public space. And there are plenty of people who saw you grab me first. Mike looked around too, realizing how this would look to any objective observer. A drunk man confronting someone in a parking lot, escalating to physical contact, then claiming assault when the other person defended himself. This isn't over, David. Yes, Mike, it is. It's been over for months. You're the only one who doesn't know it yet. I got in my car and drove away, leaving Mike standing alone in the parking lot. In the rearview mirror, I saw him pull out his phone, probably calling Sarah to report on our encounter, feeding her more ammunition for her endless victim narrative. Dad, are you okay? Emma asked. I'm fine, sweetheart. Just tired of all this drama. It has to end eventually, right? Sarah can't keep this up forever. I thought about Sarah's note, her half-hearted apology, her new boyfriend who would probably be her next victim or her next enabler. I thought about Mike's drunken confrontation, his willingness to physically assault someone based on lies and manipulation. I thought about the friends I'd lost, the relationships Sarah had poisoned, the ongoing damage from her campaign of revenge. I hope so, Emma. I really hope so. But deep down, I knew Sarah would never stop. She was incapable of accepting responsibility, incapable of genuine remorse, incapable of moving on without trying to destroy anyone who'd witnessed her failures. She would keep playing the victim, keep manipulating people like Mike, keep trying to rewrite history to make herself the hero of her own story. The difference was, I didn't care anymore. I'd built a new life, stronger and more honest than the old one. I had Emma's love and respect, Tom's friendship, Jessica's alliance, and my own hard-won peace of mind. Sarah could keep fighting her war against reality, but she'd have to do it without me. I was done being her victim, done being her enemy, done being anything to her at all. I was free.